I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start off with adjustments to the agenda. Any adjustments? Anyone's aware of? Hearing none. The public hearing, 4.1, for the public hearing for the fire department insurance claim and restitution ordinance.
If you'll recall, we spoke.
Need to open it first, sorry.
Make a motion to open that. I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor of public hearing? Okay, it's open.
If you'll recall, we needed to make a change to the ordinance, because of our new billing. And what this does is it allows our fire department to bill for certain calls, the insurance companies. And all we're changing are the costs, and the charges will be based on mitigation rates listed in Exhibit A. And the mitigation rates listed in Exhibit A will increase annually based on the annual percentage increase in the Consumer Price Index. And that's developed by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The rate adjustments will occur on the anniversary date of this ordinance and resolution, and to keep the fire department's cost recovery program in conformity with increasing operating expenses. So all we're doing is changing that one part.
Motion to accept this change.
So moved. Second.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, what have we acquired through charging now since we implemented this year, a few years ago?
That's a great question.
That's my question.
I'm just gonna be faster.
I'm thinking Peg is probably watching and she's on her way to us at breakneck speed.
We'll find that out.
We'll
Okay.
find that out, but I believe it's over $20,000 since the inception.
I'm not a question, it's a comment. I think what's key in this, and I said this when this was first brought up, providing possible recovery. Doesn't necessarily mean the town, the fire department is gonna go out and charge everyone for every call.
Correct.
It's possible, especially if it's bad stuff happened for, that's when we want to go out and try to recover this, like the OUIs and the arsons and stuff like that.
In fact, this thing actually says they can't go after the individual.
Correct.
They only go through the insurance
Insurance.
company. Yeah.
I have a question. Where does the money go? Does it stay in the fire department? Does it stay in
If
the
you'll
EMT?
recall from the budget committee meetings, it goes into their capital line.
Goes into the capital line item. Okay.
And she appears.
Magically.
And another question, there are various CPIs. There's the national CPI, and it's a small point, but there are several different CPIs, regional, national, goods and services, energy, there's different ones. Maybe we want to try and define which one we want to use. And I don't really have a preference, but
Hey, do you know off the top of your head which CPI the company uses?
I do not, but I do know that it's more of an, I don't know if you've discussed this already, but it's an industry standard. So
insurance industry standard?
specific to fire department billing, there's certain laws and regulations that must be followed by the state. And so when we looked into doing this originally, there's only a small window of services that are companies that provide this type of service.
Mhm.
So actually, before we went with our original company, we looked at the same this is the company that we're thinking of using right now. And the suggestion was made when we drafted our policy to just use the standard or go towards more simple wording so that you don't, so that you're more compliant. what the state allows you to bill for.
Well, if there's like an industry standard, we should just say that in the. If we can identify what it is, that would be a good idea.
Yeah, so there's an exhibit A that's attached to that, which might have answered some of your questions.
Says the mitigation rates below are the average billing rates and are typical for the incident responses listed. However, when a claim is submitted, it may be itemized and based on the actual services provided. These rates are based on actual costs using amateurized schedules for apparatus, including useful life equipment repairs and maintenance. Labor rates include an average department's actual burden labor cost and not just firefighter wages.
It does refer to the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Mhm.
Yeah, just, but as I said, there are many different.
Yeah, but you're talking about
CPIs.
labor specifically here.
Labor.
Wages, that's what they're really keying in on, because that's your most volatile element when it comes to price increases for services. It's the cost of labor.
Vehicles,
Particularly when
if it
you're
goes into
fighting
the
fires.
capital fund, that. I don't care which one it is.
Yeah, no.
I just think it should be
His-
defined.
His costing is based primarily on labor costs and hours spent.
So we can find that out and add that line.
Yeah.
So it does say in here that you get to charge for vehicles as well, so.
That's an amortization
An
number that's based on the
amortization,
cost of the vehicle. That's
Right.
true.
And the other question, Peg, was how much have we recovered over the last few years?
$66,251.09.
You keep prepared.
But just to make it clear, our costs for vehicles, if we're gonna, and they are included in the rate, are based on our cost. And that's an amortization number that you take over 40 years and you factor that into your cost, your hourly cost. I don't regard that as a variable that would be adjusted year to year. Because it's a sunk cost as far as the department's concerned. When you replace a fire truck, that's when you adjust that cost of capital.
Well, no, because,
Because you don't know what the cost of capital is until you actually
well,
make the purchase.
but that's why they're doing with mitigation rates deemed usual, customary, and reasonable. But I don't know that they're looking at each and every one of our
They are not,
costs.
the rates are actually listed there.
They are there,
Yeah.
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 But you arrived at those rates using a factor.
No.
No,
You did not.
They tell us.
they tell us,
This is
Oh.
the standard for the industry of what we're gonna use for billing.
correct.
Okay, then why don't we just refer to that and let them set the,
I think that's the whole purpose behind
right,
having
but
an
they're referring
exhibit
to
A.
an escalator here based on the CPI.
Right,
And that's not necessary because they're setting the rates based on the CPI.
exactly. That's exactly my understanding.
Okay, so it's moot. It's a moot issue.
So do you want to just take out that it will be, the annual increase will be based on an annual percentage increase in the CPI? Do you want to take that out? And just say rate adjustments will occur on the anniversary date of this ordinance?
Well, I would think we'd adjust the mitigation rates annually. Because you look at inflation usually on an annual basis. Or CPI on an annual basis, so.
We're not
Whatever.
adjusting them.
We're
they
no,
are.
but they are, so
Right.
they're doing the looking, we're not. It's really of no matter, no concern to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
They being not the fire department, they being the
Yeah.
company,
Company.
Biller,
the company
billing
that we,
service.
The billing.
the service that with the billing service that we use to
Exactly.
do this. Right.
That should be referenced in some way, shouldn't just take that completely out and just say they'll be adjusted annually, because that leaves it open for. A question of how is it being adjusted, so some factor should be. Included to denote who's the driving force behind the adjustment.
Which is why I did what I did.
Right.
So this is not a bad conversation to have.
based on the annual percentage increase in the consumer price index as developed by the Bureau of
Yeah.
Labor Statistics, the U.S. Department of Labor. Okay, there's that. Rate adjustments will occur on the anniversary date of this ordinance resolution to keep the fire department cost recovery program in conformity with increasing operating expenses by the vendor.
I would just say in conformity with the vendor's costs. Period.
What if we change vendor?
It's still the vendor's cost.
We'd probably have to revisit this again because this is from that particular venue.
Yeah.
These rates are from, that exhibit is.
Well, I don't think, well, the rates are fine, but I think it's just what the ordinance says is what your issues are.
Any other questions? Want to read that one more time, Julie, what it's gonna say?
So I'll read the last sentence. Rate adjustments will occur on the anniversary date of this ordinance resolution to keep the fire department's cost recovery program in conformity with increasing operating expenses in conformity with the vendor's cost. How about conformity in cost recovery in conformity with increasing operating expenses as recommended by the vendor?
How about the town's recovery vendor?
As recommended.
The vendor isn't the insurer. The vendor is a collector.
Billing
A billing
As
service.
recommended by the town's billing
By
service.
the, by the town's billing service.
I like that.
I would suggest you take the word will and change it to may. The may occur on the anniversary date.
So charges will be based on mitigation rates listed in Exhibit A. The mitigation rates listed in Exhibit A will increase annually based on the annual percentage increase in the Consumer Price Index CPI as developed by the Bureau of Labor Statistics of the United States Department of Labor. Rate adjustments may occur on the anniversary date of this ordinance resolution to keep the fire department's cost recovery program in conformity with increasing operating expenses as recommended by the town's billing service. Okay, we got it.
Got a motion, we got a motion on. All in favor of this amendment?
So moved.
Second,
We already got a motion. No. Any public comment? On this hearing? All in favor? Pass 5-0.
You have to close the public hearing.
I'm gonna close public hearing for this.
Close it first and then pass it.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor to close the hearing? Now we can act on it. All in favor of this amendment? Robert's rules. Thank you, Pam, for keeping me straight.
Try.
Any presentation? Citizens' comments in general.
Oh, I can vote now?
No voting.
My name's Lee Bennett. I live on Beech Ridge Road. It's a road off of Flanders Corner Road. It's a driveway off of Flanders. I came up because every year, right around December to Aprilish, during mud season, winter, we always get texts from the bus driver saying that we got to get down the end of the road, because the bus will not come down the road because it's not passable. So I don't know if there's something you guys can do, between now and winter time to help the road be a little bit better. I know last year, the road works went down through and they put a lot of gravel down, regraded the road, and it has gotten a lot better, but there's still a bad spot between 304 Flanders Corner Road, which is my driveway, and right about where your place is, Mike, down through that dip, and that's where the bus doesn't like to go because they're worried about they're going to slide off the side of the road and get out over the bank.
So it's the dip in between.
Yeah, yeah, it's a dip that comes down through.
304 and,
155.
okay. I
And
can let
it-
John know.
And I think a lot of the problem too is that the trees, you're probably aware of it too, the trees have grown up over the road. And we're not getting enough sun either, to melt the road and all that. So we're not getting, there's no sun hitting that road down through that whole strip. Down through there. So I don't know if they can, clear some of them trees back and let the sun shine down through and help clear the road off, because it stays icy down through that whole strip, down through there, so. And I think that's, the main problem is just the trees have, grown in. So. But I don't know if something can be done between now and winter or not, or,
I can talk to John Diggle and I can let you know.
There is quite a dip, there is quite a dip right there, so. I
yeah,
mean,
it slides off. If you pull out of his driveway and get down over the hill, it goes right to the right. And obviously I drive down there every day, but you will slide down off the bank and the road's posted for 35, but it's not a 35-mile-an-hour road, the way it is. So,
Well, when it gets paved,
well,
then you have to, then you'll be here.
Yeah.
No, we won't.
and that's another question I had too. I know we talked years back. I think Pam started a petition. Or there was a petition started or talk about it. Is there anything going on about that being paved in the future? Or?
Yes, there has been conversations about that. It takes time to save money for a total pave.
Yeah.
Of essentially a new paved road. I know that Old Route 1 is before you.
Yeah.
And Old Route 1, according to John Daigle, is what he's going to request for next year. So I would say it's in the plan.
Yeah.
It's all again a matter of funding and what the select board and budget committee does
Yeah.
this March.
Yeah.
So
Right.
and I don't know if he's updated that price yet. But I can ask him.
Yeah.
I'll ask him that too.
Yeah, but like I said, my main concern was just, that the dip going up the road, just because I lose a lot of work. When the bus texts at 6 o'clock in the morning and said, hey, we're not coming down through. So I dig clams for a living. And then when they text out, I lose them morning tides, and it does come out of my pocket and cost me a lot of money. Last year I missed probably 20-ish, tides that I could have been working,
You're probably the first person to stand there and tell us that the trees need to be cut back. So I appreciate.
Yeah,
the
I
fact
think
that
that's the
you
main.
realize that that's a big part of
Yeah,
it.
I don't think it's all great. I think it's mainly, the trees and the sun not coming down through. I think that's, the main problem, so.
But I think that section of road should be built up as well.
Is it a mud issue in
It's,
spring?
it's a real mud issue down through that spot.
It used to be.
Yeah, it's bad, but like I said, there was other spots on the road that were a lot worse that they have repaired. And they've done a great job at it. So I don't don't know if they ran out of money on it or time or what, so,
But
yeah.
I will talk to John and let you know.
Yeah. so, all right. Well, I appreciate it.
There's two dips that I'm thinking of. There's one up towards the Joneses house. And actually, there's been a couple of cars that have skidded into
Yeah.
that little swamp.
Yeah.
But
They
you're
did-
talking further back up the road.
Yeah, further. So if you come out, if you take it right out of your driveway, you go, the first dip, I guess, comes down in toward Pam's house.
Yeah.
And then it's not quite so much that strip, it's the next one down is, down into that dark area, down through the bottom.
Okay.
It comes up to 304
Just
Flinders
below
Corner Road.
Carolin's house,
Okay.
that, the culvert right there.
Yeah.
There's another culvert right
But
there.
it's just, that's the muddy strip and it's kind of pretty much like ice, icy mud when you hit it in the wintertime and the bus will not come down through. And if anybody's got the time, I mean, you guys can contact the bus company and you can see how many times that they text out, they will not come down, Flanders Corner Road. So it's a lot.
Thanks for the info.
Thank you.
We
All right, thank
don't
you.
know this stuff.
Yeah.
People come in and tell us.
All right, I appreciate
Thank you.
Any other comments, public comments? One. Select board comments.
So remind folks, school's starting up. I spent my day at school today. And you'll see buses out and about doing their practice runs, so be aware, and starting on Tuesday. There should be children on the side of the road waiting for their buses. So be aware.
I'm good.
As am I.
Thanks for the reminder. I'll have to leave earlier in the morning then.
You wanna avoid the bus.
Yeah,
You don't wanna be
exactly.
stuck behind
Yeah.
it.
I've got two to make. One is, the Legislative Policy Committee of the MMA is looking for folks to serve as alternates. So if anybody's interested in serving as an alternate, I'd love to know. Because I can arrange that.
When do they meet?
Just put that out there. So if I can't get to a meeting, the alternate goes.
When do they meet?
We're fairly intensively, the schedule hasn't actually been set yet. Probably once a month at least, and sometimes during the legislature season, a couple times a month.
During the day.
Yes, yeah, it's not a night meeting.
And it would be a select board member, correct?
It doesn't have to be. This oddly enough, this can be just about anybody. Anyway, I wanted to plant a seed.
Well, I think if it's going to be somebody who's going to, I mean, because we did well with what we felt should be
We did.
discussed.
I mean, it's on the table now.
The issues we brought forth.
Yep, they're
Um,
all on the table.
So it should be somebody knowledgeable with that.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Stop there. And the only other announcement I have is that the Great Art for Great Reads event that the library is putting on with so many artists in Midcoast. It's a real collaboration. Some of them donate, some of them take percentage of the sale, but it's a real collaboration that we do every single year. There's a reception at the library Friday from 5 to 7. And the online bidding goes live Friday morning at 10 o'clock. So please go to the library website where you'll find a link to the works that are being offered for auction and feast your eyes. There's some amazing stuff online to look at. Thank you. That's all I had.
I've just got one minor thing. Last meeting, we set the mill rate 16.9. It's really bothered me since that meeting, think about it all the time. And I've seen it published in Lincoln County News. It's been on our Facebook page. It was even on Lincoln County TV, the Was Up program. They talked about it. And fortunately, it's not just us that all the mill rates went up. Waldeboro did a great job with the budget committee, select board and the budget committee, and coming in pretty much flat. Obviously, we had an increase because of the school and the county. There's a whole lot we can do with the school and the county, other than keep talking to those representatives. I got a few phone calls on it. I saw a lot of interesting conversations on social media about it. You know, we got some people concerned citizens out there about our taxes. Unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, in a few short months, we're gonna be sitting around this table again with the budget committee going over next year's budget. And we really have to think hard as where we're gonna have to do something because our residents cannot afford to keep being the well, to keep getting that funding from. The well's gonna go dry and it's hurting people. And it really bothers me that we had to increase it, and plus we're gonna have another reval on the property coming up too, which we have to do. What's that gonna do for us? That's all I have.
I just want to say you had no choice but to increase it,
Oh, absolutely. We had to.
right?
We had to.
But I don't want people thinking it was,
No, it's
And
just.
the town's portion actually went down a smidge.
A third of
we went
percent.
down, we went down a smidge, but
Yeah.
yeah, but we had to use fund balance to
To do
do that, knowing what we were facing with the school and the county.
Right.
So,
So next year. Could be some services they were taken from. And I'm not saying it's gonna be town services, being emergency services and town office, stuff like that. Could be some of these outside sources that come and get some funding from it. It could affect them. It could affect a lot of people. But that's a story for another day.
you had to just bring up budget already.
Cause I think about it.
I know, I do too. No, we all do. That's something.
Town
that
managers report.
We do. So we were all excited at our last select board meeting because we saw the survey crew out at Kaler's Corner, which is one of our most, are now our most dangerous intersection, believe it or not, because we now have a four-way stop at Old Augusta, Mangtown and Old Augusta, Mangtown and 235 and Old Augusta Road and 220. So we had generously authorized John Daigle to reappropriate some funding that would allow us to pave, which was a great idea that the DOT guys had, along with John Daigle, to make a table so that we could accommodate a four-way stop with a table coming up the hill for a big truck to essentially park so that in the winter, they wouldn't slide back down. So we had the survey team out there and then the engineers got a hold of it, and lo and behold, that is not going to work, that plan. The existing grade is too significant to even build up, even with 12 inches of pavement would not allow for that table to be constructed. So what they're looking at, the DOT, is a total, essentially, rebuild of that intersection. Either taking out material or putting in material, which is beyond what we as a town can accomplish and beyond what, it's not just paving. Because we were going to have the paving contractor that we have in town now take a look at it. So that project now will be moved to 2027 as it was originally, before we had this brainstorm of could we do it this way, into 2027. And the reason too that they can't just put a four-way stop there is that the grade is too great for them to even recommend a four-way stop without some type of a way for a truck if they get back coming in up that hill, so that in the winter it won't back down the hill if they have to stop. So we're back to 2027 for that intersection to be anything to be done there, as far as a four-way stop. In the meantime, we have a meeting again set up to see if there was anything else that we can do. It's always suggested that the pole, so when you're sitting going south on 32, when you take that look to the right, that pole, that is the actual pole that has the electric for the flat blinking light itself. And perhaps we can ask for enhanced flashing stop signs or something there for at least the 32 sides of the intersection. So that's what we're going to do, but I didn't want people to get false hope that this was going to happen because we were very sad when the actual engineering came back.
Half a loaf is better than none. Could we put up a stop sign on the, I guess it would be on the south side of 32 on Old Route 1?
It'd be too much of a
Three.
grade going down. They let it slide down, they come on the brakes. They'd be afraid of, I'm sure. The grade.
Coming down the hill.
Coming down the hill, yeah.
From Route 1.
Yeah,
Like a
I
three-way
can,
stop instead of a four-way.
I can ask about a three-way stop until then. Well, we even talked about we got so far into this that we talked about put the four-way stop there. And then during a storm, would there be a way to put something over the stop sign so that a truck, if they had to, could go through? Or could we just close? It sounds crazy, but could we close the end of 220 at Route 1, close that off during a storm and make people turn it? But there's just no way. I mean, we thought, we presented a lot of things. And it's a really tough thing with that hill. And as they explained to me, we have done, there are a lot of intersections like that with hills and, they can only do so many a year. So 2027 is the quickest we could get it done. Well, they could get it done because we can't really do it. But I just wanted to give everybody an update, and as soon as we have this next meeting, I will let you know. The other issue that came up when they were actually out there looking at it too was raising that grade or lowering that grade then affects the sidewalk. So if we're gonna have to redo that section of the sidewalk, what we should do is then extend that sidewalk down to the ball fields, which makes perfect sense. And there is grant funding available for that. So they did put me in touch with a whole nother arm of DOT that works with sidewalks. So in a way, it's a good thing. But would have been great if it was something that we could have easily done to get it addressed before this winter. But I don't want people to think we're not working on it. We really are trying to figure out how to better, how to make that intersection work better. That's all I have.
That's all you have? Consent calendar. A motion to approve the consent calendar,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor? New business, I see none. Old business. 11.1. Code violation update, Mark.
Good evening. Just to update you on the case we were working on, I was asked to come back this evening. I've also have the property owner with me, and then somebody else that is on the property. I did my inspection yesterday. We went through all the properties. 2 of the campers that were there have been removed. And then there's the rest of the buildings. We inspected all of them, and there's no residents living in any of them. The only one that is being occupied right now is the one furthest down. That property is kind of in a limbo state right now, where it is being purchased by a family member. It just has not gone through the deeds. As such, both the property owner and the person that owns that are here now. I've had a chance to sit down and talk with them. I feel very confident that they are moving forward on getting a septic system in there, which will comply. Ultimately, that's the goal, is just to bring everything into, to comply with the state law. With that being said, I feel, as long as, you were comfortable with it, I feel that the owner of the property has complied with the consent letter that we issued. I understand that last property still needs to be worked on, but I have confidence that the owners of that building will, follow through. They're here tonight if you do have questions for them. And also the property owner did want to speak to you, and but do you have any questions for me prior to that? So
I do, or do you feel that the issue, that property at the end of the road is occupied,
yes,
and there were issues
With-
around that occupation?
yes,
So it's kind of urgent that those be addressed.
correct. And they are under that understanding. They have a list of site evaluators. And they have assured me that they are working diligently on getting that rectified. We have a temporary system set up to capture waste that is not going on the ground. And we will continue to work with them to make sure that it gets done in a timely fashion.
Are there any campers on that site
No.
left? Not on the entire site.
Let me back up. There are some that have been put into storage that are not occupied and not able to be occupied
Those are the
But-
ones that are right next to one another.
in the pit.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
correct.
Have you got a schedule or anything for just maintaining contact with the individuals?
I've talked to the owner of the property,
Yep.
and I've talked to both him and his father about the process of going forward. If they do want to convert that into a living space,
Mhm.
I will be more than willing to work with them in order to make sure that it gets brought up to code, both for egress and sanitation. plumbing, everything that would be required for that.
Mhm.
So, I feel very confident moving forward that, you know, if something is done, I will be involved in that. So,
Cool. That's all I want.
And the campers that are in storage won't be taken out of storage and utilized, and that's very clear.
that is clear. Yep. Any other
Thank you.
questions for me or?
Thanks for following through on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
This is Russell. He'd like to basically talk to you. He's a little bit hard of hearing, so you might have to speak up, but Russell, did you want to address that? Yeah, just stand right up there. It's fine.
Well, I got a whole lot to say. I mean, I do want to apologize to you for my ignorant mouth the other night. It was not personal to you, believe me. It was just because I was so darn mad, but
I'm from New Jersey, so
I'm sincerely sorry. Yeah, I know you did. Yeah, and I'm glad you did. I'm sincerely sorry about that. I wanted to get that out of the way. But I really am. It was nothing personal.
I didn't take it personal.
Good, thank you.
But I just, you know, you have to have some decorum, so we're good.
Yeah, I know. I gotta learn to control my temper a little bit.
A little bit.
I get stupid at times, but.
That's okay. It
we
was
all
just, you put me back to high school with all my fishermen that I grew up with.
Yeah, and I remember the teachers always slapping my hand because I always had bad language coming out of my mouth, but. I just, one thing I wanted to say is the last meeting we had. I came, I walked in the door and when I got here, I really thought I was just gonna be sent down with Mark and a couple other people. Cause I got a bad back, bad breathing, and I can't hear. I mean, I don't think I've heard 10 words out of here other than what Mark just said a little bit, cause he spoke up a little bit, but. He said he'd inform me a little bit about it but I didn't stay because of all of those reasons, and I didn't really understand that it was mandatory. I would have said here either way, you know, whether I was supposed to, you know, had to or not, I would have stayed. And I was just hoping maybe somehow that fine could be dropped. I mean, if it can, it can't, but you know, I mean, I didn't not stay because I didn't want to see what was going on. It's just, I took it, you know, it was gonna be between me and a couple people because of my hearing. Then I know Mark, when I say what 10,000 times, ain't looking like an idiot, but I mean, that, I guess, and that, and like I said, from now on, when something needs to be done, I'll make sure I contact Mark before I go and do stuff like I'm supposed to. I didn't really realize a lot of stuff that I did do that I had to, but now I know Mark's made it clear, so. And this young lady here, the other day, made it clear too, so. But I guess other than that, still really want to apologize. I'm really sorry about my bad mouth
You
thing.
just saved my night. You called me young.
And you can ask most people that know me, I'm a gentle bear. I give shit off my back to most people. You know, if they was freezing, I'd get cold first. That's anyone that knows me, you can ask them. That's the way I am.
You are.
My temper's the only thing I got to learn how to.
You are every boy I grew up with in high school. They were all commercial fishermen, trust me. You're every boy.
I just sincerely sorry though.
You're fine.
It was not personal. But other than that, I guess, like I said, from now on, I'll make sure I do stuff right. And I plan on fully intentional getting everything fixed up the way it's supposed to be, so my two little camps can be lived in. But pretty much, I think the only thing left to really do is, like Mark said, gotta have leach fields put in. I had septic tanks, but gotta have a leach field hooked to them, so. And I guess they weren't quite big enough. 500, I guess you could have 750 or 1,000 gallon these days, but laws change, so. But other than that, I guess that's ain't much for talking, so.
I guess this would be for Mark. Was there a fine attached to it?
There was a
And-
$500 fine on the consent agreement,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's what he's referring to.
That's why I was asking. That's why I was asking. Is you're asking to,
Excuse me?
you're asking to eliminate the,
if it may get dropped. I mean, like I said, if I thought it was mandatory, I would have stayed either way, but I didn't realize it was mandatory.
Bob,
If we did that after compliance. After
That was
full
gonna be my,
compliance.
that's why I asked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I think we're all on the same page.
you come up to code,
Excuse me?
if you come up to code, come see us again.
I still didn't hear
Right.
you.
We'll make the motion that when you come up to code, when you're legal, and Mark says you're good to go,
Yeah,
we'll drop the fine.
yeah, okay.
Have a motion
As
on
far
that?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor? So
Appreciate-
get up to code and we're gonna drop the fine.
Yeah, what do you mean by code? I mean,
Compliance,
okay.
up to compliance.
Yeah, okay, Mark said he'd
Yeah.
explain it to
Yeah.
me. Well, I appreciate it, you guys, for listening to me. And got any questions for me? Don't be afraid to knock me upside the head and get my attention. Thank you.
Thanks, Russell. No other old business. Agenda items for the next meeting.
I have a couple. I'd like to go over the Noblesboro interlocal duck puddle agreement. If you notice, they reviewed it and they sent back some changes to be made to it. They suggested some changes and I'd like to go over those with you and have John Daigle here too. And I also wanted, we did receive bids for our welcome signs and our signage in the community. I think EDC will be making a recommendation as to which vendor they might want to utilize, so that would probably be on, the welcome signs would be on the next meeting.
Anything else anyone would like to discuss next meeting?
I got nothing new.
We'll have the, public hearing on the warrant.
Is that the first meeting in September?
Yep. And I do know that the fire chief will want to be at that meeting.
We're talking about fireworks.
Because we're dealing with the fireworks and, his concern with that is the actual getting the permit. And issuing a permit. That didn't really work well in the last ordinance when they had it. So I know he'll have some comments for you, hopefully beforehand.
Does he have a possible solution? I think that's the biggest thing. I think some people don't do. They get a lot of problems, but they don't bring the solution if there is one.
Okay.
I think
I'll make
that's
sure he brings that.
just because you have a problem, there's always a solution.
So I think part of it is making the person responsible who's having the fireworks check the fire danger level
Mhm.
themselves, so that if you're having fireworks and you've checked the fire, if you're not having them, that's when there will be a problem. There won't be a problem if you've checked. Again, if you wanted to get into notification of neighbors and stuff like that, we're gonna have a conversation.
I ain't into that, just.
Get that.
Okay. Great.
Okay, that's enough for the meeting. I'm not gonna have another long meeting like we did the last one.
Okay. Sounds good.
Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
second.
all in favor?